Have you ever woken up one morning and realized that something you've loved for decades suddenly feels different? The coffee you've sworn by for years tastes oddly flat. That favorite dessert, the one that used to make you close your eyes in delight, now feels like it's missing some magic. Or maybe, out of nowhere, you've developed a craving for foods you barely touched in the past. It's as if your taste buds have quietly rewritten the menu of your life without asking your permission. Wisdom beyond 60, dear everyone, this is where the story gets interesting. Most people think aging is just about wrinkles or slower steps, but there's a quieter, more personal transformation happening inside you, one that even your doctor might not mention. After the age of 75, your relationship with food, the comfort, the joy, the memories tied to it, starts to subtly shift. And here's the part no one warns you about. These changes aren't just preferences or moods. They're rooted deep in your body's sensory system. As we age, our sense of taste and smell begins to lose its sharpness. Taste buds, once quick to react, start to slow down. The pathways that carry flavor signals to your brain may no longer fire as efficiently as they used to. And because smell plays a massive role in how we experience flavor, even the richest, most seasoned dish can seem oddly bland when your nose isn't picking up the same details. Add to that the influence of common medications, many of which mute or distort flavors, and you've got a recipe for a whole new dining experience. But it's not just flavor. You might find yourself reacting differently to texture and temperature too. The chilled fruit you once found refreshing might now feel a little too cold for sensitive teeth. On the flip side, warm and soft foods may feel like a gentle hug from the inside, comforting, easy, and satisfying. None of this means you're losing your enjoyment of life. It simply means your body is adapting, reshaping its own comfort zone. Here's where it gets truly fascinating. These shifts can either dull your appetite and make mealtime feel like a chore, or open the door to an entirely new world of flavors. Imagine experimenting with bold spices you once ignored, a sprinkle of cinnamon on your morning oatmeal, a dash of rosemary over roasted vegetables, fresh herbs that wake up your senses in ways they never did before. This isn't just about feeding your body, it's about rediscovering joy at the table. Nutrition, however, is still the anchor. A fading sense of taste can sometimes lead to eating less, which risks missing out on essential nutrients. The key is balance. Pair appealing flavors with colorful fruits, vibrant vegetables, lean proteins, and wholesome grains. Think of it as building a plate that's not only good for your health, but also a pleasure to eat. And maybe that's the biggest lesson here. Your relationship with food is never static. It evolves just like you do. If you welcome that change with curiosity rather than frustration, you might discover new favorites that suit your needs now better than ever before. Mealtime can still be a celebration, a place for connection, laughter, and maybe even a few surprises along the way. Before we go further, I'd like to invite you, if you're finding this journey into the hidden truths of aging both surprising and valuable, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. Your support keeps this channel going and inspires us to keep bringing you more of these eye-opening conversations. Now, let's make this fun. Here's a question for you to ponder and answer in the comments. If you woke up tomorrow and your favorite food suddenly tasted completely different, what would you do? A. Try to adapt and find a new favorite. B. Fight to recreate the old taste, no matter what it takes. Type A or B in the comments, and let's see how everyone feels about this. When we think about Social Security keeping track of us, most of us imagine the same old process. The yearly cost of living form, a few bank deposit checks, maybe a letter asking for updated information. But in reality, the picture is changing, and it's changing in ways that feel almost invisible until you look closely. Over the past few years, a quiet shift has been happening. Agencies connected to senior benefits have been testing devices that do much more than we realize. These aren't big, clunky machines or obvious surveillance tools. They're the kinds of things you'd gladly accept because they appear helpful. A lightweight medical alert bracelet, a fall detector that hangs from your neck, a smartwatch with health features, or even a friendly app on your phone that says it's there to keep you safe. On the surface, these devices feel like a gift, something that could save your life in an emergency or keep your family connected to you. But under the surface, they can capture a constant stream of information about you. We're talking about location tracking that logs exactly where you are, how long you stay there, and how often you leave home. We're talking about activity monitoring that can tell whether you've been climbing stairs, walking for long distances, or sitting still for hours. And in some early programs, this data is already being cross-checked with the medical conditions and limitations you've reported for your benefits. That means the technology doesn't just know your movements, it compares them to what's in your file. Imagine this. You've been approved for disability benefits because of severe knee problems. You're having a rare good week, so you decide to walk around your block each morning for fresh air. To you, it's a small, personal victory. But to an algorithm reviewing your activity logs, it might look like your condition has improved enough to question your eligibility. Or maybe you take a long trip to visit your daughter out of state without formally notifying the Social Security Administration. If your device pings in a different location for an extended period, it could be flagged as a possible violation of benefit rules. The most troubling part is that this isn't a distant what-if scenario. In certain housing programs, disability assistance plans, and health service trials, this kind of monitoring is already being tested. It's not science fiction. It's already touching the lives of real people. And once this kind of system is established, it's easy for its reach to expand. What starts with a small group can quickly be applied to more people under the banner of efficiency or safety. From the perspective of the agencies, the appeal is obvious. They've always had to verify whether people remain eligible for benefits. The old process, forms, doctor notes, periodic reviews, takes time, costs money, and sometimes leaves gaps. A tracking device offers instant data without needing your cooperation after it's been activated. It's the difference between checking in once a year and being monitored every single day without having to lift a finger. And yet, here's where the danger lies. Data, once collected, can be misunderstood. A few days of unusual activity can be taken out of context. A spike in your mobility could be the result of therapy, determination, or even necessity. But on paper, it might look like evidence you no longer need assistance. In the hands of someone looking for proof of a change, that data can become the reason your benefits are paused or even stopped. That's why it's so important to understand how these devices work and why they might be introduced into your life. They may not arrive with a warning label. They may come in the form of a friendly offer. Here, try this. It's free and it's for your safety. But every senior deserves to know that sometimes safety isn't the only thing these devices are designed to serve. Knowledge is power here, and staying aware could mean the difference between protecting your benefits and watching them disappear without warning. In the next part, we're going to talk about exactly why certain seniors are at higher risk and the little-known legal loopholes that make this possible. That's where things get even more eye-opening. Some folks hear about these programs and think it's just another exaggerated rumor meant to scare people. But let's be clear, this isn't theory, and it's not a distant maybe. It's already happening in other areas of life, and those early test runs are exactly how these systems eventually find their way into senior programs. Think about what's been done in other settings. In the criminal justice system, GPS ankle monitors have been around for years to keep track of parolees or those under house arrest. Everyone accepts that as normal in that context. But what's new and worth paying attention to is how similar technology is crossing over into healthcare, insurance, and now even elder services. Private disability insurance companies have already experimented with phone-based GPS check-ins and wearable activity trackers. And here's the catch. If you refuse to participate, they sometimes treat it as a violation of your policy. I've seen cases that would make anyone uneasy. One man dealing with severe anxiety was receiving private disability payments. His insurer gave him a safety app on his phone that quietly tracked his movements. Over time, the data showed he visited a nearby park nearly every day. To him, those trips were therapy, small steps to manage his mental health. But the insurer took that as proof he could leave home regularly, interact with people, and therefore didn't meet the requirements for his benefits anymore. They cut off his payments. That case is still tangled up in court. But it's a real-life example of how personal routines can be reinterpreted through a cold lens of data. And here's the reality every senior needs to face. Once a system is tested and proven in the private sector, it often slides into government programs sooner than people expect. It's rarely a dramatic, overnight change. Instead, it's a slow drip, starting with a small, specific group of people, usually under the banner of help or safety, and then quietly expanding. This is why understanding the bigger picture matters. When you hear that a housing complex for seniors is adding fall detection in the hallways, it may sound harmless. When you hear that a Medicaid-funded health monitor is being offered for free to rural elders, it may even sound generous. But the infrastructure being built, those devices, those data connections, those review systems, can just as easily be used to monitor and judge eligibility for benefits. The issue isn't that technology is inherently bad. In the right hands, these tools save lives, provide peace of mind, and connect families. The issue is how the information is used, who has access to it, and whether you've truly agreed to all the ways it could be applied. In many of these programs, the consent you give isn't a heartfelt conversation or a clear yes. It's a box you check, a paper you sign, buried in legal language that no one explains in plain English. And once you've given that consent, even unknowingly, it's incredibly difficult to argue later that your rights were violated. By the time you realize the scope of what's being collected and how it might be used, it's often too late to take it back. That's why these pilot programs matter, even if they seem far away from your own life. Because history shows that when a system proves it can work in one place, it rarely stays there. It spreads. In the next part, we'll dig into one of the biggest blind spots: how consent is being used as a loophole to gather information in ways most people never imagined, and what that means for you moving forward. This is where things start to hit closer to home. Many seniors believe that as long as they haven't done anything wrong, there's no real risk. But the truth is more complicated. The government doesn't need to sneak a device onto your wrist in the dead of night. There's a far easier way, and it comes wrapped in the language of help and support. It's called consent, and it's hidden in plain sight. Whenever you accept a free or subsidized device from a government program, a Medicaid initiative, or even a nonprofit that partners with official agencies, you're almost always agreeing to certain terms. These terms are rarely explained in detail, and they're often buried in pages of fine print. Somewhere in that legal jargon, you may find phrases like, "You consent to the collection and storage of activity data," or information may be shared with authorized third parties. And often it will also say, "Data may be used to verify eligibility for benefits." That's the key phrase, because once you've signed or clicked accept, you've effectively opened the door for your personal information to be monitored, stored, and potentially used to decide whether you still qualify for the very benefits you rely on. The unsettling part is that most people don't fully realize what they've agreed to. They hear about a device meant to detect falls, track medications, or help emergency responders find them quickly, and it sounds entirely positive. No one sits down with you to explain, in plain language, that this same tool could also be used to review your daily activity and cross-check it against your disability claims or benefit requirements. By the time you learn the truth, the data trail has already been building for months, sometimes years. In legal terms, this is called informed consent. But in reality, most consent given in these situations isn't truly informed. Seniors are often told the device is for their safety, their health, or their convenience, without a clear explanation of the trade-offs involved. And while you might think, well, they still need a warrant to track me, the fact is, when you agree to the terms, you've bypassed those protections. The very act of acceptance can be interpreted as permission. This is why it's so important to slow down and really understand what you're agreeing to before accepting any device or service connected to your benefits. Ask questions that go beyond, "Is this safe?" Instead, ask directly, "What data does it collect? Who has access to that data? Will the Social Security Administration be able to see it? How long is it stored? Can I turn it off?" If the person offering you the device can't answer clearly or avoids the question, that should be a red flag. We have to remember the problem isn't just the technology, it's the way that technology is intertwined with benefit programs, where declining participation could be seen as refusing help, and agreeing could mean giving up a slice of your privacy without even realizing it. Once that information is out there, it can be shared, interpreted, and acted upon in ways you never intended. The hard truth is that the same tool that could save your life in an emergency might also be the one that leads to a suspension of your benefits because someone, somewhere, decided the numbers didn't match your claims. That's why understanding consent, the real meaning of it, not just the checkbox version, isn't optional. It's a form of self-protection, just as important as locking your doors or checking your bank statements. And this isn't about fear, it's about awareness. If you know the rules, you can make informed choices. You can decide which tools to accept, how to manage them, and how to set boundaries. Because at the end of the day, the best way to protect your rights is to never give them away without knowing exactly what you're trading in return. In the next section, we'll talk about the groups most likely to face these situations first, and how history shows that what starts small rarely stays that way. Even though the risks of tracking devices are real, seniors are not powerless. There are steps you can take right now to guard your privacy, protect your benefits, and avoid becoming an easy target for overreach. The first and most important action is to become a careful reader. Before you accept any free device, whether it's from a Medicare plan, a Medicaid service, or a local senior program, read every word of the agreement. Don't rush through the fine print just to get to the signature line. Look for language about data collection, location tracking, sharing with third parties, or verification of eligibility. If you see any of those, you need to stop and think about whether you want to move forward. If the language is unclear, ask direct questions. Don't settle for vague assurances like, it's just for safety, or everyone signs this. Instead, demand specifics. What information is collected? Who sees it? How long is it stored? Can it be turned off? Will the Social Security Administration or other agencies have access? If the answers are hesitant, incomplete, or evasive, that's a warning sign. Another layer of protection is to keep thorough, ongoing documentation of your health and activity. If you're receiving disability benefits, make sure your doctor's records accurately reflect your real condition. If you have occasional good days, when you can walk a little farther, lift something heavier, or travel, get those noted as well. That way, if any device data shows you being active, you can prove that it was within the context of your medical reality. Without that documentation, a snapshot of your life could be misinterpreted, and you may find yourself in a fight to keep your benefits. Whenever possible, maintain control over your own equipment. If you want a medical alert system or a health monitor, consider purchasing one privately rather than accepting a government-issued model. This gives you the ability to choose a provider that doesn't automatically share your data with public agencies. You might pay more out of pocket, but you'll pay less in terms of privacy and control. Staying informed is equally important. Technology changes fast, and so do the ways it can be used against you. Privacy laws often lag behind the latest tools, and by the time legislation catches up, the habits of data collection are already in place. Make it a habit to read reliable senior news outlets, follow advocacy groups that focus on elder rights, or join community discussions where these issues are openly talked about. The more you know, the harder it is for a new program to catch you by surprise. It's also worth remembering that you have legal rights, and they matter. Before your benefits can be cut off, agencies like the SSA are required to follow due process. That means they have to notify you, explain why they're taking action, and give you a chance to respond. You can challenge the evidence, especially if it's GPS or biometric data taken out of context. If you never gave informed consent to be monitored, that can be a powerful legal defense. But you have to be ready to act quickly, because once payments are suspended, it can take months to restore them, even if you win your case. The reality is this: prevention is far easier than recovery. Don't wait until you're already in trouble to learn your rights and take protective steps. Being cautious doesn't mean living in fear. It means living with awareness. The goal isn't to reject all technology, but to make sure you're the one deciding how and when it's used, not a faceless agency or a line of fine print. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Control over your privacy starts with you. Once you give away that control, it's nearly impossible to get it back. And in today's world, guarding your personal information is just as important as guarding your health or your finances. The choices you make now could determine not only your safety, but also your independence in the years to come. Life, especially in our later years, teaches us that the most valuable things are often the ones we can't touch: our dignity, our freedom, our sense of control over our own lives. Over the years, we've learned to adapt to changes in health, relationships, and even technology. But in this new era, where the lines between help and surveillance can blur, it's more important than ever to stand guard over the things that matter most. The lesson from what we've discussed is simple but profound. Awareness is power, and preparation is protection. For many of us, technology started as a promise, tools to help us stay safe, stay connected, and stay informed. But promises can shift. What begins as convenience can quietly become a form of control if we don't read the fine print, ask the hard questions, and insist on knowing exactly what we're agreeing to. This isn't about rejecting technology. It's about making sure we use it on our own terms. We've seen how easy it is for data to be taken out of context. A single active day can be mistaken for a full recovery. A short trip can be seen as a violation. The danger isn't always in the device itself. It's in how the information is interpreted. And once that interpretation is used against you, the process of correcting it can be slow, exhausting, and deeply stressful. That's why the time to act is before you're in the middle of a problem. The deeper truth here is that self-advocacy never stops. No matter your age, you still have the right and the responsibility to protect your privacy, your benefits, and your independence. You do this by staying informed, keeping records, and refusing to sign away control without understanding the full consequences. These are the same principles many of us have lived by for decades when it came to our finances, our homes, and our health. Now, they must be applied to our digital lives as well. The most powerful habit you can develop is curiosity. When something is offered for free, ask why. When you're told something is safe, ask how. And when you hear about a change in policy or technology, take the time to learn the details before it impacts you. Curiosity protects you. It's the same instinct that has carried you through life's toughest challenges. It will carry you through this new one too. So here's the takeaway. Technology can be a blessing, but only when we're the ones holding the reins. Don't let convenience slowly trade away your independence. Know your rights, guard your choices, and remember, you are the first and strongest defender of your own freedom. Now, I have a question for you. If you were offered a free device to help keep you safe, would you A, accept it right away, trusting it's only for your benefit, or B, read every detail and ask questions before deciding? Comment your answer below so we can see how others think. And if today's video has given you something valuable to think about, please subscribe to Beyond 60 Wisdom so we can keep bringing you insights that matter. Leave a comment with your thoughts. We read every one and truly value your voice in this community. If you believe in what we're building here, share this video with friends or family who could use this information. We're not just a channel, we're a circle of trust, a place where your experiences and your wisdom are celebrated. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for caring enough to protect what's yours. Together, we can make sure our golden years stay truly golden.